Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. Thank you so much for taking the time out to join us. My name is Asil Pilipenko, and I'm the account executive for CleverLMS. And here in our studio, I'm very happy to welcome our guest speaker, Charles. Charles, welcome to our webinar. It's my pleasure to have you here. Charles is the
Thanks, Cecilia.
Chief Operating Officer of Employment Solution Management, one of our loyal and well-trusted and clients that we've been working for almost a year now. Yeah, Charles, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's exactly been a year. So
Right.
yes, and today. We want to share, we want to make it as a little bit of a special webinar, and we invited Charles to share the story of how Employment Solution Management chose a learning management system, a digital learning platform, and their journey in implementing this platform in their organization. So let me start sharing my screen. Give it a couple seconds. If anybody can't see my screen, do let me know. All right. So, as the topic of our webinar implies, we will be talking about what digital platform implementation might potentially look like. And we want to talk about what digital learning is, what are the obstacles that we're seeing in South Africa currently after having many, many conversations with L&D professionals, with HR teams, with many organizations across multiple sectors. And we want to talk about how Clever LMS, specific to ESM's case, has been able to help with training and compliance. What are the obstacles or the challenges that we're currently seeing in terms of digital learning adoption in South Africa? Now, if we were to kind of categorize the challenges that we're seeing, there are some external and internal challenges. And external challenges could be in terms of, the training in general in South Africa is very fragmented, and it's done in from multiple different sources, and also reliance on external training providers, which also leads to an extreme amount of administrative work in collecting the data over all the resources and locations in terms of, what training has been done, where it's been done, what people, the number of users that have already completed it, etc., which is also creating an extreme amount of operational overload and administrative tasks and for the HR teams. Another external factor that we're seeing is the accessibility, the connectivity across the country, and the high cost of data, which is also limiting the use of digital learning. That in the country, we're still seeing that in some places it is getting better, but it's still one of the challenges that has been an obstacle. And some of the internal challenges that we're seeing in terms of adopting a digital learning, and also incorporating that into the training strategy in, across organizations and companies is, there seems to be a certain level of misconception in terms of online training or remote learning just doesn't work. We're used to doing training in person. We're used to interacting with learners one-on-one, and we just don't, see the self-paced on-demand learning being effective, in our organization. The other one is actually, and I think this is quite natural and not very specific to South Africa, but obviously it has been, the case with many, many, companies and organizations I've worked with across the U.S. and Canada, in other countries as well, is actually when the company leadership, organization leadership doesn't know the software, the new technology that we want to introduce, that they're not very comfortable with implementing. They just, they don't see the vision of implementation and how it will help the organization. That also can become a very much of a serious obstacle in terms of, I know, creating this resistance. We're used to doing the things the old way. It's working for us. Let's not change it and keep, within the things that have been working within the comfort zone. And amongst all this, we're also seeing a lot of pressure, a lot of hesitancy from the HR teams in terms of how do we pitch this? How do we make up a business case to our leadership in terms of how implementing a digital learning platform, how implementing learning management systems can help our organization in terms of boosting efficiency, in optimizing our internal processes, and how it's actually going to help us and benefit us in terms of reaching our training strategies and also business goals. So those are the challenges that we're very much aware of, and I'm sure some of you can also relate and resonate with. But what are we saying is that while we acknowledge these challenges, we continue working with them and making sure that let me just making sure that we still continue driving the change that we know. We are living in the age of AI revolution, and digital learning is obviously an integral component of that. And so while we know and acknowledge these challenges, let's continue driving towards that. And when we're saying what we're saying is that digital learning, where can we use it? Let's talk about the benefits, the value that it can bring to our organizations. And one of the things that we continue in terms of delivering the message is that having a digital learning platform allows the organizations to create a centralized learning platform where all of the training is standardized, it's consistent, it's the same quality message that gets delivered across, branches, across locations and multiple groups and departments. We're also talking about that it will reduce and actually eliminate manual work and will help us automate a lot of the processes, including progress tracking and the notifications. And what else is that it will, for many organizations, and they've also who have implemented, they've seen extreme amount of, reduction in training costs because you're reducing travel costs, you're able to scale at a much bigger, numbers than you would have been able to do it with the in-person training. And because it allows for you to create those blended learnings with online and offline, it also helps you create those unique learning opportunities and learning journeys. So with that said, with that brief introduction, I'd like to give the floor over to Charles, so that Charles can share the story of how employment solution management came to choose a learning management solution, how, what their journey was in terms of implementing and results they have been able to see with this platform. Charles?
All right. Thanks, Cecile. Much appreciated. Thanks for the introduction as well. All right, everyone. So I'm Scholl Janssen van Rensburg from Employment Solution Management, or ESM for short. I am the Chief Operating Officer, mainly focused on learning and development offerings or interventions that we run. And we were looking for a learner management system about a year ago and there were various criteria or elements that we specifically looked at, one being costing. So the costing, definitely that CleverLMS supplied was within our budget range, especially on the amount of learners that we wanted to run through the learning interventions. We do workplace preparation and workplace essential skills through the platform. One other main element that we looked at was to create a gamified or a micro learning intervention. So an entire gamified experience where it doesn't take a lot of time out of the workplace, and that's actually interesting for youth and people that are entering the workplace straight out of high school, and that they're interested in at the end of the day in what we offer. So that was the second element, and the third element I think that's very applicable to South Africa is accessibility. So accessibility across South Africa, we run this training or our training programs through the CleverLMS system across South Africa in rural areas. And like Asil just briefly explained, people can download the courses, run it completely offline. Once they have Wi-Fi again, they can log in to actually upload their results or get their results and upload their marks. So that was actually something that was very interesting and attractive to us as well, to make sure that it is accessible all across different regions in South Africa. And something that just stood out for us as well was a rewards hub to actually incentivize employees to do the training. So if if we didn't do the incentives, I don't think we would have had the results that we currently do have. And we have various vouchers, bucket hats, data bundles, all kinds of incentives that actually add on to the performance of the employees at the end of the day. So that's how we selected our LMS and where it all started. I think it is going very well thus far. We're working on expanding on our current programs. We have a small team of, I want to say, instructional designers that actually focus on getting out new content, making sure that it is applicable what we offer at the end of the day. We also run all kinds of employment surveys to check satisfaction in the workplace, a virtual suggestion box. We even run logbooks through the system to make sure that employees are actually doing the work required on a weekly basis as well. So
Mm.
that's more or less how it all started and where we're currently at. And Asil and the team have been very supportive thus far. They're always accessible as well if we need anything. And because we're in such a regulatory framework with the QCTO and the CETAs, as we are an accredited training provider as well, and the courses that we offer are accredited, the reporting requirements on a portfolio of evidence was a crucial part of it. And Asil and the team were actually very helpful to make sure that we get that custom or personalized reporting done in a way that is acceptable by the QCTO at the end of the day as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's actually interesting for you to mention, Charles, because I was going to ask when, when did you actually start looking for learning management solution systems? Yeah, how long it actually took you to find and actually settle on one? And you've actually mentioned the criteria, your requirements for a
Yes.
system. Yeah, yeah. And so, have you compared, in terms of what other systems have you looked at that have you considered? And what you mentioned is that the QCT or the regulatory requirements in terms of the system, yeah, that were also crucial
Yeah.
for the platform. Yeah. Can you tell us a
Yeah.
little bit more?
So previously this is not the first learner management system that we've used before. We've used a
Hmm.
traditional learner management system. I'm not gonna say names now, but we've used a traditional system that is, it's an international system as well that's been
Mm.
around for years. And we just felt it doesn't supply us with that gamified experience and bite-sized learning interventions at the end of the day. That was one thing that we immediately recognized.
Mm.
That's why we then looked for something that we can offer training completely on a mobile device. That's what we looked for originally. And then we came across CleverLMS. I think we saw you guys on LinkedIn or we met on LinkedIn, and then we basically took it from there.
That's
The
true.
reporting requirements was something quite unique because you weren't aware of that as well in the beginning.
Hmm.
And you really helped us a lot in terms of making sure that we can supply what is necessary in terms of the learner reporting and the portfolio of evidence at the end of the day for the accredited requirements under the QCTO. So it was a bit of a mission on both sides to actually get to that stage, but
Mm.
very helpful to make sure that we can actually get that custom reporting. And now we're actually at a stage where we're improving on that to see if we can get our WSP and annual training reporting done through that as well, so that everything is in one place when it comes to our learner administration and the learner records management at the end of the day. Yeah.
That's true. That's true, Cheryl. It's been a very, a very much of a learning experience and a journey for us as well. And I appreciate your team's patience in working with us on that too. So it's definitely, yeah, it has definitely made our platform much better, more aligned with South Africa's regulatory framework, and hopefully and obviously we'll continue working on making it better so that the system continues to work, and serve better for you. Can you tell us, and I'm sure the audience is also very much interested in terms of how your implementation looks like. What was it like for you? What are the challenges that you experienced that maybe you foresaw, but maybe you didn't expect they came forward?
All right. Okay, so we're based in Gauteng in Pretoria is our head office. And one of the things that immediately when we set off on this project, we needed to train a couple of hundred individuals on workplace preparation around the country. So they were spread out over Western Cape, Eastern Cape, KZN, and Gauteng mostly. So that was one of the main things, is how are we going to roll this out and implement it. So once we've had the systems, or the system was then, I want to say, the framework was created and our instructional design was completed, we went
Mm,
through a testing and pilot phase originally, and then we saw, okay, what needed a bit of improvement, where there were any minor challenges, but we were just a small team of instructional designers, and the system actually allowed us to roll out a program for a couple of hundred individuals. We're also just a couple of facilitators that focus on the assessments and the moderation that's being
mm,
done. Because the system has the automated assessment functionality as well, it really takes that strain off of the facilitator so that we can scale the online projects through the LMS and actually facilitate it with a small team for, like I said, a couple of hundred individuals around the country on a remote basis, completely remote basis. So that was actually something that made it a lot easier at the end of the day. It was the auto assessments and the system functionality.
yeah, yeah. And I do remember when we just started the actually rolling out the system, we saw each other pretty often for lengthy periods of time, if not every day, then every other day or 2 or 3 times a week. And I still remember putting together those, the program structure. Was it, was it what you expected, or was it more challenging in terms of digitizing the content and putting it into the system so that it actually follows the training workflow that you had in mind?
So I think with the background and the training that you guys supply to us, you don't need a IT degree or anything, no coding experience, nothing like that was necessary at all. Not even WordPress experience to actually create the program and the learning journey on the system.
Mm,
In a bit of instructional design experience, I would say is necessary, especially because we operate in a regulated framework.
right.
Except for that, the system itself was very easy to actually create materials, establish that learning journey, and roll it out. Did take some time, obviously, but I think once you get used to it, it's quite easy to use. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, yeah. And when you mentioned earlier that you had a couple of hundred people that you had to train that were scattered all across the country, and we did start with a small pilot project, right, with a few, and I think that's the first step that I always recommend, to start with a small pilot group, test it, see what works and what not, and what possible issues that come up so that you can kind of smooth them out, fine tune it, and then you can kind of scale and deploy it to a wider group. Do you think that actually helped you, that the first, small group that you did, kind of like the pilot testing with?
Yes, definitely. I think also because what we're trying to achieve through the programs, like I said, workplace preparation, workplace essential skills, it is accredited programs. It's one of the first skills programs that were registered under the QCTO. But we took
Mm,
completely a different approach on the way that it's facilitated, the way that it's implemented through a gamified experience and incentivizing employees as they complete the journey. So it was
hmm
something completely new for us as well. But I think through the pilot program, there were only a few minor challenges when it came to some of the assessments and some of the questions that we created. We fixed that after the pilot group, and everything has gone quite smoothly thus far in terms of the accessibility and our completion rates. It is self-explanatory, self-paced. People have 3 months to complete the program once they enter their employment journeys with our placement partners or our host employers. And it's been quite successful thus far over the past year, yes.
Right, right. And Charles, can you talk to us a little bit about reducing the cost? You mentioned earlier that with 200 people, we were still able to use just two facilitators because the system helps with automated assessments. What are the other areas that you've been able to save costs with through the platform?
All right. So compared to in-person facilitation, we deliver all kinds of programs under our scope. A lot of in-person training, a lot of hybrid training, and then completely remote training as well. And
Mm,
if I had to compare in-person training towards what we're doing now, it would have been a lot more costly as we needed to deploy facilitators all over the country between various provinces, which it
Mm,
wasn't really feasible. And if we would have just used a traditional system, or let's just say, let's just use Zoom or Teams, it's also not just accessible on a phone. Not everybody had a laptop that actually partook in the training as well. This
mm,
program was completely available on a mobile device. You can download it, complete it offline, upload your assessments, and then you get your results. So it made it a lot more cost effective. With the two facilitators, we split people in groups of 40. The one facilitator assesses while the other one is busy with the facilitation and support and mentoring. And
yes.
we rolled it out in systematically over various cohorts over the past 12 months. So it made it a lot more manageable and cost effective just in terms of the facilitator costing. And then when it comes to material and the assessment costs, because a lot is auto assessed, there's no printing, there's also a cost saving on that, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. If, on average, what would the ratio would be in terms of the number of learners to facilitators? You currently have, let's say two facilitators, but if you were doing in person, how many more facilitators you would have needed for in-person trainings?
So we more or less with our in-person training, all of our training facilities and venues, no more than 25.
Mm,
In, so the program actually allowed us to do around 40 in a group, so that's almost
mm,
double
yes.
compared to the ratio. And when
Mm-hmm.
you look at our participation and pass rates, I must be honest, it's very similar to the
Mm-hmm.
in-person training, but as it's self-paced and completely remote, you would expect it to be maybe a bit less than the in-person training, and it was actually very similar, if not even higher, for some of our compared to some of our in-person programs.
Mm-hmm. So the prejudice, the misconception that online training or remote training might not work or might not be applicable to learners, you would think that that's
Definitely.
definitely not true.
Yes. Definitely, I think
Yeah.
if you just have to show the benefit and people just need to realize what they're getting out of the program. I think the
Mm,
incentives definitely help, but we also realize the main purpose why someone sticks for 3 months, it's not the incentives, it's because he wants to complete the program and
mm.
get that certificate at the end of the day. So if they understand the value of that certificate as part of the accredited program, I think it really creates that mindset shift and gets people to participate.
Right, right. Can you talk us a little bit more to talk to us a little bit more about your incentivized training program? How you came up with the idea and what are you awarding them with? What bonuses or vouchers or what are they getting for and for what for which achievements or accomplishments in the system?
All right. So on the system, we have two main things that learners need to complete. Under our Learning Hub, it is the accredited program, the Workplace Essential Skills and Workplace Preparation. So
Mm,
as they continue to actually participate and progress through the training, they get awarded marks and points. So the marks are just counting towards their competency, and the
mm,
points are actually loaded on their profile. They can then spend the points in the rewards hub that we've established. So in the rewards hub, the different incentives that we have are flash vouchers, which are basically equivalent to cash vouchers. They can cash it out at any ShopRite, Checkers. They can spend it on betting apps or purchase any groceries, anything like that. So it's basically equivalent to cash. Those
yes.
are one of our biggest sellers. We have a company leave day, which is also quite nice. So if someone completes the entire training program, he gets enough points to either buy a couple of vouchers or you can buy a leave day. And then
Mm-hmm.
some of our smaller items are t-shirts, bucket hats, Bluetooth headset, and data bundles. Those are some of
Yeah.
the small items that we also currently have on there. But we're quite flexible on it, and the system does allow us to add anything we want at the end of the day onto our rewards hub. So it has a nice check-in, check-out function where we can monitor what's being sold, and then we obviously get approval or approved budgets for these incentives and items.
Yeah. What has been the most favored or top requested item from the gift store from the Rewards Hub?
Definitely the vouchers. The
Uh,
leave day is a bit expensive. That would have been my favorite one, I think. But the vouchers are our top sellers at the
yeah.
moment. Yeah.
Yeah, and for Leave Day, I can imagine why it's not so popular. We're talking about young people of between the ages of 18 and 25 or 35, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken. So I can relate why they would be more interested in the cash than the Leave Day.
Um,
Yeah.
I see there was a question in the chat as well regarding our age group. So it is geared to towards young adults. The
Hmm.
sponsorship that we receive for these training programs, it is geared towards unemployed youth. So we try to get youth into the workplace, but then they don't have the essential skills or the professionalism needed to actually perform in the workplace. And that's why we do the onboarding and the workplace essential skills and professionalism course in the beginning. That's accredited by the QCTO, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's great for you. Yeah, to mention, Charles. I want to tell the audience that you're free and welcome, and we encourage any questions or comments. Please feel free to leave them in the chat box. We'll for sure have a Q&A session at the end of our presentations, and we'll be able to address them. And feel free to direct your questions directly to Charles or to me. Um, what is
Perfect.
your favorite functionality within the LMS that has been a game changer for you, Charles?
I think something that we realized from the start was the interactive video assessments. So
Mm.
you always get these kind of videos as part of online training, but nobody ever looks at it, or they just skip through the video, and then there's no real impact at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day. So the LMS allowed us to create a interactive video assessment. So let's say we take this recording afterwards, we can put in assessments or questions, true and false, or multiple choice throughout the video. And if someone gets it wrong, they need to start again from the beginning, and you can't fast forward through the video. So we use those as icebreakers for all of our study units or modules in our training
Mm-hmm.
program. And
Mm-hmm.
that really helped a lot, I think, with the participation and understanding the content, because now you need to focus, watch the 10-minute video in order to actually complete the assessments or the questions that pop up throughout the video. And that
That's
we
true.
use that as an icebreaker to actually familiarize themselves with the content.
And to be able to move on if they don't
Yes.
pass, if they don't answer the pop-up
Yeah.
questions correctly, then yeah,
Yes.
nobody likes to redo the same thing over and over again.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Of course.
How and what's the general feedback that you've received from the learners? You mentioned that you've been doing surveys, through the same platform, and so it would be interesting to hear what challenges or what they've had in terms of using, or maybe not challenges, what their general experience has been.
So general experience, I think what the learners liked a lot was the fact that they can download and use the program content offline. It's something that
Mm-hmm.
was really a benefit for them at the end of the day. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously the rewards up. That's the
Mm-hmm.
biggest thing. The incentives, they're always all about that. If they've purchased a voucher today, they're going to ask 2 hours later, where's my voucher? Why hasn't it been issued? So those were kind of the big things, because they did work hard for it. They deserved it. They want to see the incentives at the end of the day. So those were really things that stood out. And like I mentioned, what they want to see at the end of the program is they really want to be proud of the accomplishment of completing the program. So we issue the printed certificates by the QCTO when they completed the final integrated summative assessments. And that's really something that stands out for them, is the fact that they complete an accredited program throughout a 3-month period, but simply from their phones, while driving in the taxi, while sitting at home on the couch. It's as easy as that for them, that they can actually complete an accredited program while it's just 15 minutes a day or 20 minutes a day. It doesn't take 2 or 3 hours every day and time out of the workplace, or you have to study every night. It's not what we try to create or what we try to achieve through this
Mm-hmm.
program.
Yes, yeah. And I think yeah, I love your point that it seems almost effortless when you break it into such micro learning, milestones. But
Yeah.
what you're saying is that, consistency and hard work pays off. And so I think that's what the incentivized training also targets, is that if you continue, stay consistent, stay, within the system and complete it, that will be obviously there's the vouchers, but also the certificate of completion. So that also allows them to get employment in companies, right? That's the culmination,
Yes.
the end result.
Yes. So as part
Mm,
of the programs, we also have CV building and cover letter preparation training. And that also helped them a lot to actually ensure that they get proper jobs afterwards, while entering the workplace, that their CV remains updated, all of those kind of things as well. So that we could actually measure the impact and the difference that the program made throughout the training and afterwards.
yeah, right. And the target number of learners for the program for this year, what does that look like for you, Charlene? Are you within the timeline?
Yes. So we've just started with our six, the sixth and seventh cohort,
Mm,
that's going through the same program on the LMS of about 80 each. So that's 4 groups in total of 40 that
yes.
have just started in the past 2 weeks. And then we plan on training another 120 at least before the end of this year on the system.
Awesome, awesome. Good luck with that. Now that things are running more or less, smoothly, now you know how things are going, then
Yeah.
all the rest of the group should be much, much easier. If you were to start this process again, if you were talking to yourself from 1 year back, what would you do differently in terms of implementation, in terms of rollout, just general, and how would that look, integrate into any recommendations, and life hacks that you could share with our audience?
Yes. I think time is always the big thing. Time that you can spend, first of all, on the planning side of it. We had
Mm,
about 2 months to do all of our instructional design before the pilot program needed to launch. I
mm,
think if we had a bit more time, we could have tweaked a bit more, added a bit more. There's always a lot of content you can use. You can use the LMS as a library. All of the job descriptions, company policies, QMS, you can upload it on there. So I think
mm,
that's also something that we're currently exploring. And then a lot of time on evaluation. We're only looking at a lot of evaluation now on what we want to add on, what we want to improve, what we want to change, maybe when it comes to the reporting. But all of it's minor changes, nothing major. We're quite happy with the impact and the results that we're getting of the program. And I think next steps would be to add on more programs. I see someone asked as well in the chat, is it only limited to workplace readiness programs? So no, that's just what we started off with. We're also accredited with Agri-CETA, Services CETA for various programs. So we do plan on adding on more learning programs and taking it to the public, and to private entities that would like to sponsor these types of programs. Like I said, we just started out with workplace readiness and workplace essential skills are some of the programs we started off with, but we would like to take it further and even get up learnerships at the end of the day onto the program, 12-month programs that are a bit bigger, a bit longer as well.
yeah, that'd be fantastic. Yeah, for sure. And I see that we're about, yeah, on the time. Um, in terms of looking into the future, what are the functionalities that you would like to see in the system that would enhance and improve the user experience, the learner experience, and also for you as an organization to get the most out of the system, the value?
Right. I think it's something that we're currently already working on is the current reporting. So if I just look at it from an admin perspective or accredited provider perspective, the reporting capabilities, I know we're currently busy with the workplace skills plan and the annual training reporting requirements to see how we can make it as easy as possible to actually plug it in to the system. But because of the various CETAs and all of the different types of reports and exports that come from the CETA LMIS systems, it
Mm,
is quite challenging. It's nothing that it doesn't touch on compliance or anything like that, but I think it just makes it easier for us as skills development providers to actually facilitate the process for our clients and for the learners at the end of the day. From a learner point of view, I think the system does what it should. It's quite easy to use. I don't have a lot of input or changes that I would recommend from the learner side and the learner portal.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Charlotte. It's been a very interesting, and I love to hear the story over and over again, especially because I've been part of the journey myself, and I
Yeah.
love, to see how things are evolving, improving, and growing, and to see learners, progress. So I appreciate you sharing your story. In terms of, and we'll probably answer more of the questions when we move on to the Q&A session. But some of the things that you mentioned, I want to kind of highlight is the special, reports that we had mentioned, that Charles mentioned. So, learning management systems and the heart and soul of a learning management system, to me is the reporting. And so the standard reports are what, gives you the statistics. But what we have been, are in currently still working on and building for ESM is the custom HR analytics dashboard, and that's an add-on module to our LMS. And what it does is essentially it uses a BI platform and uses all of the data, additional and extra data that's collected within the LMS, and inputs it into a completely custom dashboard, giving you tying the statistics, the data to the business goals and tasks. So whether it could be how is the completion of the training program affecting the learner engagement, how is it affecting the performance, or where are we seeing the knowledge gaps and that we can address. So those are the things that we're helping build together. So the data is actually, will be instrumental in making decisions, not only in terms of the learners, but also in improving the training programs and continuing to improve and enhance and making it even more valuable for the learners. So just to give you a little bit more of the, I'm going to share a little bit more about on the HR analytics dashboard here, just using the opportunity. So what it looks like, just so that you have a better understanding of what we mean. So give me a couple of seconds. All right. So I think everybody can see my screen. So this is just a demo stand of a learning of an HR analytics dashboard that I had mentioned earlier. So when we look at standard reports, we look into data reports that show you the numbers of people that have completed the conversion, the status of the course completion and how many points they've earned and etc. And here with the custom dashboards, we're able to give you the conversion rates, and we're also able to add the additional report fields that otherwise we would not be able to do so in the main system. But here in the analytics dashboard, because it's so flexible, it's robust, and uses the BI platform, we're able to do so much more and actually build it from scratch. And that's why it's very specific and custom for businesses. So here you can see we've been able to add some of the demographics, information that's typically used for CETA and ATR reporting. And the thing that we've been focusing on specifically for ESM was the test reports in terms of showing the detailed, answer breakdown for all of that would meet the requirements of the portfolio of evidence. So hopefully this gives you a glimpse of the possibilities of the functionalities of the LMS and the benefits that it can obviously create for your business. All right, so let me go back to the main presentation to conclude some of our key ideas here. So, and then we can move on to our Q&A session. So as we talked about earlier, LMS adoption, it can definitely be a daunting experience, especially for organizations that have never used a system like this. So we can definitely relate to that, which is why choosing not a vendor, but a partner is key here. Someone that, understands your process, understands your training workflow, who can, be there with you and work with your team in helping build this, and, roll out the system with you, understanding where you want to go in terms of your goals, several months ahead or several years ahead, and then also help you build a system that will continue to meet the business needs. in the future. So that will also builds confidence and consistency for the team as well in terms of support. And so we're also talked about is the reports and how the data and the analytics, not just statistics, is crucial and instrumental in helping organizations get more out of the system, because the system can do so much more than just optimize and bring efficiency and automate and streamline. Those are the things that will help reduce the administrative workflow. But the additional, benefit of using an LMS system is obviously lies in the analytics and how it can be used for strategic business decisions. So, with that in mind, again, I want to thank Charles for coming and joining us here and sharing the story of ESM. It's been a pleasure working with your team, and I continue, working and supporting. And we hope that this will be a very fruitful partnership for many years to come. So thank you so much for sharing that story.
Thank you, Phil. No, thank
All
you for
right.
having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So here, let me go back to the audience and see what questions we have. All right. So I see you've been able to actually answer what reporting capabilities does the LMS have. So Kelly, I hope that the brief detour that I made in terms of the HR analytics have been able to answer your question. So I'm going to go back and see the week run against foreign currency. Natalie, glad to see you here. So absolutely, I agree with you on that. And I think as an LMS provider, as a systems provider, we're also trying to work in this, and so that we can offer the pricing in local currency. So if that is something of concern, please feel free to reach out to us, and we can definitely discuss that. So we definitely keep that in mind in terms of the currency fluctuations when working on our pricing structure. Um, okay, so Lindive had a question for Charles, and I think you've already might have answered that. Learning remains a challenge. How do you support clients to overcome this, especially with aging population holding decision-making? Lindiva, thank you so much for your question. I think this is also, yeah, absolutely. This is one of the challenges that we had mentioned in terms of the wiser population that's in the leadership roles that is definitely creating certain amount of resistance in terms of adopting these. I think the best way to overcome these challenges is to continue proving, what benefits the value and of these systems. Change is not easy, and it's one way to make sure that we can embrace change is to communicate, to continue communicating, and to continue telling and showing the results that others are, accomplishing with the help of the system. So hopefully that responds to your question. Um, all right, so Charles, I think you've had a chance to answer most of the questions here that were directed to you.
Yes, if I can
Yes,
maybe just add on to just mention now as well as Sil, I think
sure.
as well when it comes to HR and leadership in an organization, it's obviously difficult to measure and to motivate the impact or the reason why the LMS is necessary or why training is even necessary at the end of the day. And I think two big things. First of all, when it comes to the return on investment, the impact on employee performance, I think, is one of the biggest reasons why someone should look at training in the organization as a continuous thing, not just as a once-off or a tick box exercise at the end of the day. And the second would be the return on expectations, what was expected originally from efficiency and performance, and how you plan on impacting it, and to plan the training around that. So that's the reason why we did the workplace readiness and workplace essential skills. It's for the impact that we wanted to achieve is to make sure people are ready for the workplace and the rules and regulations in a normal employment environment by the time that they enter it. So that was one of the big reasons why we actually selected CleverLMS and why we created this program. And like I said, we're really eager and excited to expand on what we've built thus far.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I hope that also helps clarify and respond and actually add to the answers that we've been providing. All right. Thank you, Charles, for sharing your contact information. We'll definitely also follow up and share. If you're interested, feel free to contact Charles directly in regards to ESM services. In concluding this webinar, I want to thank Charles for joining us once again and sharing the story of ESM. And then also thanking the audience for taking the time out of their schedules and to come and join the discussion. Thank you all so much for coming, and have a wonderful rest of the day, and hope to see you soon on our next webinars.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Good day.
Thanks, Cecile.
Bye, Charles. A great day.